stablecoins. Ido Sidalman. Welcome, Ido.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you very much for having me.
And so I can do this.
I'm celebrating my new Oculus Quest for this occasion.
All right, congratulations. How did you get it? They're hard to come by.
Yeah, pulling some strings, and between the last time we spoke a few days ago, managed to get it yesterday just for the event.
All right, well, cool. Well, welcome. So what do you think of it so far?
It's a brave new world. Still fighting some nauseas from the experience, but it's definitely, yeah. I think it's something to do with the visual sensors that are not calibrated with equilibrium sensors in the ear.
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
funny
it.
because I get. Hold on just a moment. And Lays, how do I amplify?
Just go to your host settings, the third icon down.
Ah, there it is.
Oh my God, she speaks.
Okay, is that better?
Mm-hmm. Way better.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, there we go. So hold on a second. Okay. So nice to have you here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the stablecoin, about Saga?
Sure, with pleasure. So Saga is rather a stabilized coin rather than a stable coin in the sense that it starts off fully stable, but eventually it will become an independent currency. We've started Saga a bit shy of 3 years ago with the vision of creating a complementary currency. Complementary in the sense that it does not aim or try to replace any existing currency, but simply tries to complement them by creating a currency that is not impacted by any single nation state monetary or fiscal agendas. Claiming that the currency that we all know and are using were designed to meet the national economic reality, which is still the case, but we have a new scope of an economy, one that is global, and this scope is not being met. Two main pillars to our endeavor. One is remaining rather stable or minimizing volatility on the way to create such a currency, which we deem necessary to create a currency that has the potential of serving as a medium of exchange and a store of value. And the second one is creating a governance framework that ensures that at all times the sovereigns of the currency are the currency holders, meaning that any monetary decision to be taken, any changes to the protocol needs to be confirmed by the currency holder. We launched on December 2019, and on December 2020, we're going to hold our first elections, where after which it might be that I won't be the one on such a stage speaking on behalf of Saga, but whoever the currency holders are going to vote.
So you launched in December 2019. What have you learned?
So, first of all, the model of Saga is leaning heavily on the SDR. So the model in very simple terms is that Saga starts off as a fully stable currency backed by the SDR, which is a basket of currencies issued by the IMF for 50 years now, 51 years now, and is used by central banks to stabilize their own reserve. It's a basket of the 5 most traded currencies in the world. So
which are the US dollar,
the US dollar, the euro, the renminbi, the yen, and the pound, in different ways, obviously. And the basket updates every 5 years or so, or when there is a major event. The last major update was the introduction of the renminbi to the basket.
Which was in what year?
2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
Rather
and
late, yes.
was it a basket of 4 before then, or did they kick somebody
was.
out? Okay.
Yes, no, it was a basket of 4 currencies.
Okay, they didn't have to kick out Taiwan.
No. I mean, assuming that the euro survives, I guess that the basket will remain pretty much unchanged. But that's quite an assumption nowadays.
So, do you think much about kind of the global, what's happened to these global currencies in terms of, the dollar becoming stronger, versus the other currencies? I would, as we've had a flight to risk.
So I think that it is really too soon to tell. If something is happening, it is that I think that the certainties that we had about the stability of those currencies comprising the basket is starting to shake. The question of I'm still struggling with all the I'm getting all kinds of alerts. The question.
Okay, well,
of
people can be friending you if people want to be your friend.
Oh no. Yeah, that's actually.
Or you, if you're moving around, because you've got to stake out your territory, you can be alerted you're leaving your territory.
Yeah, no, I'm I'm doing fine for now. I didn't get anything yet. Okay. So I think that if something is changing, it is that the notion of stability of the dominant currencies is changing, and the SDR that was initially quite an educational burden for us, because stable coins that are based on the dollar or on the euro are rather simple, and we have to start our explanation by explaining what the SDR is actually. And this burden we're feeling much lighter now because people are referring to the SDR constantly, as is always the case in time of crisis, right? Because this basket was, it's interesting, this basket is not only not correlated to a single currency, it is anti-correlated. Because since the break of the golden standard, currencies are appreciated against other currencies. And so when it comes to the SDR, when one currency goes up, the other is bound to go down, and vice versa. And I think that these are very interesting times for our choice to use the SDR.
Undoubtedly, and it's funny, while I know the history of the U.S. in terms of going off the gold standard, and I think it was 71 that Nixon took us off the gold standard.
Right.
I don't know at all the history of the other currencies in the basket and when they abandoned the gold standard.
So I think that basically the SDR was formed in '69 when the gold standard was starting to shake already. Mainly the relations between the US and France and the franc back then. But I think that the abandoning of the gold standard put the end to the Bretton Woods agreement. And so it meant that all currencies are abandoning the gold standard as a standard along with the US dollar. Some central banks still kept gold in their caves, or at the BIS more accurately, but the standard itself
and was that when the SDR was formed at Bretton Woods?
No, so the SDR was formed in 1969, just 2 years before the complete abolition of the gold standard.
Okay. And Bretton Woods was 71, 70?
Well, no, Bretton Woods was 44.
Oh, it was 44. Okay, so that was, okay.
Yeah.
So the World War II was ending and we had to create a new world order.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. These are the great struggles between Keynes and Wright. Yeah.
Okay, so you rolled out your coin in December. And so where are you now in terms of do you think of it in terms of market cap?
So not yet. What we really think about it is the term of usage and of use cases and partnerships. So in this regard, we are already listed in 3 exchanges on Liquid Global and Bithumb Global and eToroX. We just recently kicked off 2 partnerships with Zengo, a wallet that makes the user experience much easier and could suit our target market, and with Celsius, where one can buy Saga or deposit Saga SGA and earn up to 9.9% of interest per annum. And this offering that combines stability because of the model of the currency, along with the possibility of interest yielding, is an offering that gets quite a lot of adoption. We're very happy with it. Our main concentration now is on markets where economies are broken. So markets like Argentina, Brazil, Turkey, South Africa, where governments and central banks have failed to provide the stability that is desired by their citizens. And we're seeing quite a trend shift towards crypto in general, stable coins in particular. And what is fascinating there is that the dialogue is not a dialogue of philosophy or vision. It's a very concrete and practical dialogue. People are earning their salaries, and they want to make sure that those salaries are not losing their value on a daily or weekly basis. Mind you, in Argentina, people have lost in the last 3 years 70% of the value of their currency. And crypto does better than their own local currency. And I think those are fascinating markets.
And so what is the on-ramp in those markets?
So it very much varies between markets. So in South America, the on-ramps are pretty shared between the different countries. It's mostly a Latin American infrastructure, be it local exchanges, global exchanges, and each country has its own particularity. In Argentina, for example, acquiring more than $200 worth of anything would entail a 30% tax. In Brazil, that's not the case. It's very different between countries. Unfortunately, today we learned that Turkey hit a new low with the Turkish lira, and capital flow restrictions are foreseeable there as well. And this is also one of the markets we're focused on.
That's interesting because you're based in Israel, and is the proximity any help to doing business there?
So prior to COVID-19, my answer would have been yes. Flying to Turkey was a matter of 1 hour versus 20 hours to South America. Today, I think that one of the limiting elements, but also facilitating elements, is that the distance has less meaning, as we can see in this convention. But I think that what really guided us is places where we can, or markets where we can provide an advantage today, not simply by telling our vision and saying, if you buy into our vision, then Saga makes sense. But why would Saga make sense today? And in those markets, Saga makes sense today. The ability to be exposed to the 5 global currencies rather than being exposed to currencies that are evidently not very stable is already making a change.
Makes a lot of sense. If you think about kind of the statistic that I'm seeing the most in terms of stable coins is that we're approaching this $10 billion market cap. It's obviously dominated by Tether. If you look out, year in 2020, year in 2021, do you think in terms of those? Do you think in terms of market cap? Do you think in terms of share? And how do you think it will shift over the next few years?
So I think that still with a growing market cap of stablecoin, it is still an intra ecosystem movement mostly, and with some opening to new market, but it is still very much a blue ocean. I think that stablecoins are not new, right? If we look at any nascent economy and nascent monetary ecosystem, it always had its own kind of stablecoin, and the gold standard is a sort of stablecoin, if you want, right? An
Sure.
economy that needed to stabilize against the previous trusted store of value, and the gold standard was exactly that. So I think it's definitely a pillar in the birth, if you want, of a new economy. And so in this sense, I suspect that the market cap will definitely increase. What I think we are seeing with Saga, but not only, Libra just announced its new revised plan and includes the SDR minus the renminbi in its own plan, and what I hope to see is a shift from from the reliance on single currencies to baskets. And there are many baskets that can be envisaged, whether it's regional baskets for regional regions of commerce, whether it's Southeast Asia, Africa that just left its own stablecoin. Many countries in Africa, up until 3 months ago, still relied on the colonial franc as their currency.
Wow.
And
That's crazy.
And just now they've announced that they're withdrawing from the franc. And so I think that these times of crisis is exactly a time where people are reconsidering their paradigms. And I think that diversification and seeking stability in such turbulent times will have quite a lot of, will consume quite a lot of our energy. And here stablecoins can make a big difference, mostly if they're not reliant on a single currency, but rather on different modules of baskets and diversified holdings.
So super interesting. I've got lots more questions, but I do want to just make it. Does anybody in the audience have a question? You can just raise your hand and we can call on you, bring you up on stage, going once, going twice. Okay, hold on a minute. Let's see. I can't tell. SimD85, do you have a question?
I'll actually.
Can you talk?
Allow the. Hold on. I'll give them access to me. Okay. I'll participate now. Okay, you guys should be able to raise your hand if you have a question.
So Sim, you might have a question. Okay, well, Mike. Mike runs Crypto Monday Los Angeles, and he's OG, been around the space for a while. So what other are there other baskets that you look at and you go, wow, that's really interesting?
This guy's a troll.
So first of all, when we had to choose the SDR is not a perfect basket, right? It's a basket as we've mentioned previously. The renminbi was added just about 5 years ago. Although China is definitely a growing economic force way before that. And the reason is that the SDR is a multinational, the IMF is a multinational effort, and politics and economics are being in constant struggle there. And so there are many baskets that are about a constant data-driven measuring of currency trading, and there's a lot to be done there. We chose still to rely on the SDR because the SDR is already established. It has past metrics. It has been used. And it was for us to choose a basket that already has gravitas and usage and enjoys trust. But there are definitely different indexes of new baskets that are forming, and I think that there is no available ETF of the SDR currently, simply because we are used to several years of relative stability in the currency, in the foreign exchange rate. And
Wow,
this is not the case. Sorry?
I said that's wild that there wouldn't be an ETF of that lets people easily get in and out.
Right, because the rate of the dollar and the euro remains quite stable. Even the dollar and the renminbi remain quite stable. This is clearly not the case now. So I think that the different formations are of England suggested
Young guy,
that
and
the
he was
US
Canadian, right? He was Canadian
Right.
before he.
Right. And I think that just 2 months ago he reiterated his suggestion for a synthetic digital currency to replace the dollar as the reserve currency of the world. And by that he meant, again, a synthetic currency being one reliant on a basket of currencies. Financial Times this week, two articles, one calling for the SDR to become a full-fledged currency and not only for users by central bank, another one calling for the IMF to issue more SDR, so if you wish, to extend the quantitative easing from national currencies to the IMF. So I think this
Makes a lot of sense. So we're winding down. We've got another talk starting at 3:30. You're welcome to stay with
raising
Darion. Okay, Sim, you got a hand? You got a question? I think you can talk. Can you talk? You got a microphone? No?
Wait, who is it?
Okay.
If you guys want to ask me questions, just raise your hand. I can toggle you in.
So she's trying to do something. Well, again, okay.
Okay, I just want to
Talking
make
to
sure
me?
that you're not trolling, kid, because I saw you like doing weird stuff. I'll let you talk, but just like please don't troll.
Okay, rock and roll, Sim.
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me now?
Okay, you should.
We
be
can
able
hear
to
you
talk
now.
Yeah.
Hey, you can hear me? Yeah, no, that was just sorry, it was boredom. But yeah, so I got a question here. Like, what are the legal and regulatory guidelines, and how will your organization or any other organization monitor emerging regulatory considerations?
Okay, thank you.
So
My guess is you've thought about that a little bit.
Yeah, quite some times. Actually,
Natural.
the fact that Saga was born three years ago and launched just a few months ago is mostly due to regulatory considerations. I will add to that the fact that Saga is not available in the United States because the regulatory situation is unclear. So the regulatory situation is focused on two main issues, although there are many more aspects. One issue is AML and KYC, anti-money laundering, and know your customer, and the other is the adequacy of the reserve management. Unfortunately, we still don't have a unified global regulatory framework. We are operating and registered in the UK, and so we are compliant with the AML Directive 5 by the European Union and its translation in the UK. And so are we to the reserve adequacy. Very recently, just 2 weeks ago, the FSB, the Financial Stability Board, was commissioned by the G20 to set the scene for a global regulation of stablecoins. Currently, it has issued a first document containing 10 recommendations. We're very much looking forward for a unified standard protocol for regulation. It pretty much exists as on the front of AML and KYC as it is being dealt by the FATF, but an overall regulation is not available on a global phase still. But we're constantly monitoring it. Anyhow, the base is that we're operating only where we're sure to be compliant with existing regulation.
So I'm taking a picture. There you go. I just took a picture. You can take selfies here. So,
That's cute.
yeah, can you take a picture of us, Annalise? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'll take a picture of you guys.
Here you go. Can you come over here? There you go. There you go. All
we
right.
can even in Corona
Exactly.
time, we can even shake hands and.
Yes. Yes. Taking a picture. Going
Yeah,
once.
I got it. Let me get a different angle real quick. So
Okay.
here. All right. Awesome. Got them both.
Okay, terrific. Thanks a lot, Annalise. Thanks a lot, Edo. You want to meet
Thank you for having me.
Evgeny, you want to come? I think, yeah, were you here? He's with Zerion. Can you come up on stage? There he goes. You know you can press the B button and come up on stage?
Actually, I have to give him some stage access. Can you raise your hand for me? Cute. On your there's a raise your hand button.
Yeah, so he's right on the floor in the blue.
Do you see it?
You see him? He's standing next to Mike. Yeah, it's just in front of you.
Stage access. Actually, you should be able to get on stage. I think you have host tools. Let me see. Hold on. There you go.
All right, there you go. Hey, good to see you. Hold on a second. Is he unmuted? I
No,
can't
he's
hear him.
muted. You have to unmute yourself. Are you able to? You should be able to. If you're a host. Hold on. I unmuted everyone. Try to unmute yourself now. Let me just double check, make sure that
Where's
you... Hold on, give me a second here. Okay, hold on.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Louis.
There you go.
Oh, okay, now I'm unmuted. Okay. And ladies, are we filming? Yes. Are we filming?
You still filming.
Okay, terrific. So welcome back. Evgeny was a guest at Crypto Mondays a few weeks ago.
Thank you. Very excited to be here again. It's great. I love it.
Have you done much VR since then?
Not much though, but it's been only like a week, right? So
Yes. Okay. Yes. That hasn't been a whole lot. So we've got some new folks here, and actually, just to start off, if anybody, let's see, Portis, where are you from?
Yeah.
Trying to see where
Pontus,
people.
Yeah.
Pontus?
Yes. Yeah. Hi.
Hey, where are you here from?
I'm from Sweden.
From Sweden. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Spitfire. Hey, where are you in from?
okay.
Can she talk? Or he? Oh. Can't hear you if you are talking. Let's see. Barry?
Everyone should be able to talk. If they're not talking,
Okay.
maybe their mic's off, but I took off.
Spitfire?
So people should talk.
You should be able to talk. I'll be unmute. Just trying to see where the folks are from.
Everyone can talk. Everybody into the 213.
All right, British
Put your
Columbia.
hands up and like, ooh, ooh,
Okay. And Barry, where are you from?
From the UK.
From the UK. Okay, so we've got a nice global audience here for you.
Toronto.
So
Toronto, world champs.
okay, we can shut them off now, Annalise. Thank you. So cool. So welcome back. For most of the folks here, they didn't see you last week. So why don't you just start off explaining what Zerion does and the big announcement you had last week.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess a lot of folks are familiar with DeFi by this point. So Ethereum is the simplest way to access DeFi protocols. So we've started off by integrating Uniswap was like about a year ago, and since then we have integrated almost more than I would say 15 other protocols available in this DeFi space. So it allows you to track all the performance of your assets across all of these protocols, and also allows you to buy some assets, invest in some assets, like put some money as deposits, and start earning yield on Compound, or buy Uniswap pools. And we're planning to roll out the support for even more protocols starting very soon, essentially. Should I talk about the announcement?
Yes.
Sure. So the biggest problem that we faced over the course of last year in terms of integrating all of these protocols was that we actually had to manually integrate all of them one by one, and each integration took us quite a while. So it's been more than 2 weeks per protocol just to have it integrated natively into Ethereum. And we decided that it cannot go like that because the number of protocols was growing exponentially, essentially for the DeFi space, and it's amazing. And we're trying just to keep up with the progress in DeFi space, and we just couldn't do it on the front end level. So we decided to shift the focus back to the smart contract level, so we can have more standardized way to access and integrate these protocols. I think an easy analogy would be ERC20 token standard. So before that, people could implement their own versions of tokens, but then since the ERC20 emerged, everyone started to use that type of standard. So we decided we want to take that initiative and rolled out something that we call DeFi SDK. So it's an SDK that essentially allows you to integrate multiple DeFi protocols using the same API, or just the same interface to on the smart contract level. So that simplifies. So it simplifies both for the protocols and for developers of interfaces and wallets. So if you are a developer of the wallet or interface, it's easy for you to integrate a bunch of protocols at